Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. I'm Anthony Murphy. This is Live Irish Myths, episode number 179. I hope you're all having a great Monday, wherever you are in the world. Perhaps you're already in Tuesday, and if you are, don't forget to say hello. Pardon me. This evening, we are continuing our investigation of the Tuatha Dé Danann, who have featured in many of our episodes over the last 2 years. I hope that you can join us for the next hour and a half. Pull up a comfy chair, put up your feet, throw a blanket over yourself if it's cold. Make sure you have a nice brew, or maybe it's just a glass of water, or maybe something like mead, or something a little bit stronger if you prefer, whatever your taste fancies. But if you're here, do say hello. We are simultaneously live streaming on Facebook, on the Mythical Ireland Facebook page and the Mythical Ireland YouTube channel. If you're here, do say hello, and we will say hello right back to you. Delighted to report that the sixth mural, and for now anyway, the final mural in the Drogheda Urban Art Trail has begun here in my hometown, where Frizz, the mural artist from County Sligo, has begun work on the Morrigan. We had a very successful, fabulous launch day on Saturday for the project, a family day, wonderful day. Weather was pretty perfect. The sun was shining for most of the day, didn't rain, which is always a bonus, and a wonderful atmosphere in the town. Great pride and delight on my part to be involved in this project and to be able to lead groups of people around the murals along with Grania Rafferty to retell the stories that are represented in the murals. And just to remind people that all of those murals pertain to characters of mythology that are connected either directly with Drogheda or the immediate Boyne Valley area. Anyway, a very good evening to John Main, who's the first in the house tonight. Banachty from a sunny but cold Balmullet, and that is in the county of Mayo. John, always a pleasure to welcome you into the Mythical Ireland Library. Mandy McCurl says, good evening, everyone. Hope you're all keeping well. All keeping good here on this side of the sea, Mandy. Caitlin Moon is in the house, says hello from a sunny Costa del Dublin. Send a little bit. What do I mean? It's sunny here too. I'm just wondering whether the temperature is maybe 10 or 15 degrees warmer in Dublin. Annette Peard is in the house. Hello, Annette. All the way up there on the ancient hill of Tara. Isn't she lucky? Joe Butler says hello from Colorado. Hello, Auntie Joe. Hope Anthony and everyone as well. All good on this side so far. Michael Pike says, hello all to it feels like Guinness. I said at the beginning, like whatever takes your fancy, be my guest. Katie Brogan says hello. Hello, Katie. Sláinte. Kathy Sue Sylvester is in southern Indiana in the USA. Hello, Kathy Sue. A very good afternoon to you. Merritt Braun is in rainy Switzerland. Now, please do keep the rain to yourself. Spread it east if you want, but not west. Don't push it this way. Very good evening to you. Kathy Maydeo, who I believe is on a day off today, so can watch the whole episode. Raining here in Newcastle, Washington State. As usual, so sitting watching Mythflix with a hot cup of coffee. Brilliant stuff. Kathy May, glad you're able to hang around today. Kaylee During is in the house. Happy to say hello in the midst of a hectic, chaotic renovations in my new part. That's really funny. But soon I'll have a studio and office again, but unfortunately no room for books. Can you forgive this Dutch lady? Certainly, but so long as the no room for books thing is only a temporary measure. Maybe I'll have to store my books in your library. You've got enough room, actually. I'm running out of space, to be honest. But sure, yeah, by all means. I'd love to see your collection. And by the way, we are in day 16 of a fairly major renovation project here in the house. I am covered in paint. You'll see it on my fingers and on my wrist. I haven't been able to wash it off. And hopefully in the next 48 hours, that project will come to a nice conclusion. And myself and my good lady wife will be able to sit down and have a glass of wine together and celebrate. It has been hard work. Doris O'Hara says hello. Jigrich, Doris, hope you are well. Mandy McCurl is saying that the rain is just starting on the Isle of Mull after a long spell of sunny weather. Wayne Bird is in the house. Trenonawa. to all. I hope I got that right, or do I need to go to the front of the glass, or the glass even? No, that's pretty good, Wayne. No problem at all. The Fulcha. Daisy Peters is joining us from Brazil. I hope you're having a great day, Daisy. Sandra Boothroyd is saying good evening. Trinanoa. Sandra. Erica Bow says good afternoon. Hello, Erica. Hope everything is well with you. Archaeoastronomy Database, whose tie haven't felt well the last few days, so I'm behind schedule, but I'm almost finished my next video. It's always fun to be able to listen to live Irish Myth with you all. Looking forward to seeing the video, and definitely get well soon. Anne Scott Doherty is saying hello from Grants Pass in Oregon. Hello, Anne. Good afternoon to you. Britt Griffin is in Northern Ontario. Our snow is almost all melted, but there's more on the way. Oh, no. Oh, look, summer. I keep saying it. Summer has to arrive at some stage, you know. I'll never complain about the Irish weather again when I listen to our Ontarioan friends telling me what the weather is like in April. Alan Hoskins is saying hello from a sunny Ballina, Killaloe. Good to be here, mounting and framing a photo of Poulnabrone Dolmen while watching and listening. Brilliant stuff, Alan. Enjoyed your photographs from the locality and from Bale Baru that you shared in the past couple of days. Salav is in the house. Great to see your updates and everyone enjoying the history. A wonderful day indeed. You're very welcome, Salav. Hope you're in good form. Indira Stefaniana is in Hollywood having coffee at noon. I was just about to say which Hollywood is that, but if it's noon, it has to be Hollywood, Los Angeles. And brilliant to have you here, Indira. Thank you. Marcia Downs, loving the pictures of Drawda that are being posted. Such a wonderful time for all I know. The murals are brilliant. Can't wait to see them, Oregon. I will, over the next few days, share photos of the work in progress. Met the artist today and had a great chat with her. And funny, she was talking about, she said, oh, I follow this lady on social media and she's an expert on all of these characters and she's written a book about them, Oregon. And I said, that has to be Morgan Daimler. And she said, yeah, it is. Do you know her? I said, yeah, she's been on the show and she's good friends. So brilliant stuff. Alwyn Roy Badzek says hello from a damp Berkshire. Well, look, it's sunny here in the Boyne Valley, and that's the way I hope it stays for the rest of the evening. Marianne Dunkinja is in Shake Shake having a burger and choc shake. Hi to all, and catch you tonight. Brilliant stuff, Marianne. I hope you enjoy the grub. Adrian O'Beglin is in the house. Adrian, very warm welcome to you. As always, you're so welcome to the library. Nuala Doyle is saying hello to everyone. Hello, Nuala. Welcome to the show. Anjali Jarmata is saying, Gia Eve, Conde na me. Only across the way, sure, I'm in Cundaloo, and sure, literally, I keep saying the Meath border is about 500 meters behind me there, so I only have to take a few steps and I'm in it, but you're very welcome. Rob O'Cofty is in saying hello from Portugal, no less. I hope you're over there exploring some megaliths. Rob, how lucky. I'd send some of that nice, well, I'm assuming it's nice, warm, sunny weather. Send it in this direction. Sean Potter is in Skerries. Yes, a few Guinness tonight. Come here, any chance? Oh, it'd probably go flat by the time you'd get it up the road. I'll have to take one out of a tin. Sacrilege, I know. Mariana Dunn is saying hello to everyone from a bright and sunny Virginia. Hello, Mariana. You're very welcome. Niall Farrell. Nothing but mucky rain here in Germany too, but good to be here. And hello to all. Hello, Niall. And you're very welcome. And hello to Rosie as well. Can't remember the dog's name, but you're very, very welcome. Great to see you. Erica Bow says good afternoon to all. Indeed, Barbara Murphy is in a warm and sunny Tucson, Arizona. Brilliant stuff, Barbara. Always a pleasure to welcome another Murphy to the Murphy Library. Barbara Barney is in the house. Hello, Barbara. You're very welcome. Maureen Joyce is in Lexington in Kentucky. Maureen Giagrich. Elaine Dent Lingenfelter says, honey, I'm home. Brilliant. Merritt says, the weather forecast says it will stop raining tomorrow. Let's hope the weather forecast is accurate. Kaylee says, a full week of renovations left before I can move in, but I am the very first owner of this apartment as it's a brand new complex. Brilliant stuff. I'll fit a bookcase in the living room somehow. Well, do you know what? If you haven't got a bookcase, just stack them up on the floor, you know? You can make a bookcase out of books anyway, you know that. Sounds great. Helen Hirsch Chatter says, survived the blizzard to rejoin the Tuatha. You had to dig yourself out with a shovel to be here. Now, folks, that's the kind of dedication that people are showing. Tom King on Gobba is in the house. Hello, Anthony, all the Tuatha. Hope all in good fettle. Another great story lined up. Our Tuatha listens in on the Tuatha Dé Danann. Yes, indeed, Tom. And I hope the forge is lit and that it's a great evening out there in the Boyne Valley. Plenty of creative work going on. The full Irish. Gary is in the house. Jigwich, great and good Tuatha. Another fine day on the sod from Tala in South Dublin. Brilliant stuff. Adina Sparks is saying hello from a breezy New Mexico. That's the only negative thing about our weather in the past week is we've had a cool easterly breeze, although it has been rather sunny and dry, so we can't really complain. And to be honest, not many people had listened to us. Kathleen Gallagher says it's a bit nippy and cloudy in New York today. Look, you know, I mean, they say variety is the spice of life, but there is nothing like a sunny day with blue sky, isn't that right, you know? Joe Butler is complimenting Tom on his wonderful photo at the Drogheda Fest. And apparently Tom has a wonderful smile. It is very true. Tom has a very endearing personality. I can tell you that for nothing. Lexi Erickson is in the house. I'm not sure if I said hello to you already, Lexi. I'm not sure that I did. Jigwich, you're very welcome. Brendan Byrne is joining us from County Donegal tonight. Change of venue, Brendan. Hope you're enjoying the wilds of Donegal and the wonderful scenery in that part of the world. Yvette Tillema is saying, still having internet freezing. Ooh. Well, I suppose it could be worse. You could be in northern Ontario under several inches of snow. That kind of freezing. No, I jest. I hope your freezing goes away and that your internet thaws fairly soon. Who else have I missed? Marge, hi, haven't caught a live in forever. Love from Turtle Island. Wow. Hello, Marge. You're very welcome. And hello to all our Turtle Island friends. Paul Greystone is in Lurkistan, lurking in the background. Hello, Paul. You're welcome. Maureen Joyce. Gia is Muragwich. And what do you say to Gia is Muragwich? Gia is Mura August na Tuatha Dé Danann Golair. Ditch. How about that? Erica Rivertree is in the house. Bannockdale, Louisville, Kentucky. Conastatu, Tommy Gama, August Tussa Fane. Erica, great to see you. Kelly Nikiali is in Seattle. Hello, Kelly. And I hope that the weather is nice on the Pacific coast of the Northwest. Tom Byrne is in a sunny West Limerick. Brilliant stuff. The cowslips. Brilliant stuff. Small Van, Big World UK is in Hampshire. Good vibes. Hello there, and you're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. Lexi tells us it's very dry in Denver. Please send rain. Okay. All of the rain that we were due in the next couple of days for Ireland, go over to Denver and give them a little bit of a washing. Gives them a little bit of a moisturizing. Kathy May Deo is saying hello to Tom. Who am I missing? Regina is in sunny Athens, Georgia. Hello, Regina. Good afternoon to you. Send a bit of that sunshine around, but not to Denver. They don't need it. They need rain. Marlon O'Kearmack, time on show in California. Fáilte le gach Dina and you. Marlon, what a wonderful surprise and lovely. I hope the weather is treating you well in California. Good afternoon to you. Anne Sieben is in Denver also, and we were just saying apparently Denver needs a little bit of rain, so we were going to ask for a little bit. We usually can spare a little bit of rain from Ireland, so we'll send a little bit in your direction, but we still need a little bit for the crops ourselves, you know. Great conversation going on there, which is fantastic. Jamie Schumacher is in St. Paul, Minnesota. Good afternoon. Is it Jamie? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right, but you're very, very welcome to the live stream. Madison Morell, I'm a bit late, Anthony, cleaning at work and forgot the time. I'm here now. Look, that's perfectly okay because we are, as I was saying earlier in the live stream, we are undergoing major renovations here at home, and I was lifting boxes before we started. Something video. Hupsut video. Hello from the resort beaches of southern Delaware. Peace and blessings to all. Very nice. You're very welcome. Good afternoon to you. I hope you're well, whatever your name is. I'm sorry that I can't pronounce Hipsut video. Catherine Woodruff says hello all. Hello, Catherine. You're very, very welcome this evening. Maria is in Florida in the USA. Hello to all our Floridan friends. Anya Ryan is in the house. I'm in Drogheda, or should I say Drogheda, loving the murals. Hi, Anya. You're very welcome. And yes, great reaction locally, I have to say. Really wonderful. Nothing but praise and good feelings for them, which is great. William Fitzgerald is in sunny Cork in the south of Ireland, the Irish Riviera. I can't argue with that, William. Anytime I was in Cork, I nearly got the face burned off me. From the sun, not from the attitude of the locals, it has to be said. Helen is HP SUT video. I've been enjoying your videos for some time. First time I've joined in a live chat. Helen Crystalheart. Well, Helen, you're very, very welcome. And I hope that you enjoy the company, as I'm sure you will, and the interactions, you know. Kathleen is saying hello to Tom. Janet Moran is in the house. So happy to be able to join. We are equally enthralled to have your company, Janet. Absolutely we are. And I think I'm up to date. Wow, can you believe it? It's taken that long. What are we on? 15, 16 minutes. Wow. Well, take a seat. Sishius, Naposhti, Golair, August Dún the Vale. Sorry. For those of you who don't speak Irish, I just said, hello, children, sit down and shut your mouth. Dún the Vale, August Nobby and Conch. Don't be talking. That was a complete... Just as soon as I say that, Coda starts barking his head off. I'm suspicious. I think he does the opposite of what he's told. Sit. Roll over. What's the opposite to roll over? Yes. Sandra Boothroyd says, our little family is getting bigger. Yes, indeed. Welcomed a heap of new members to the Mythical Ireland community in the last few days. And it's so great to see all these people and trying to share the good vibes as much as possible. Thank you, Joe Butler, who shared the video on the Mythical Ireland community. Coda objects. Coda can feel the magic. Apparently so. This evening, we are returning once again to the Tuatha Dé Danann. We are reading from the work of Alfred Nutt, as it is contained in The Voyage of Bran, son of Feivel, to the Land of the Living, Volume 2, which is actually authored by Kuno Meyer, but we are reading from those supplementary essays by Alfred Nutt. Quite good. I mean, the language is a little bit professorial and a little bit archaic, but we can deal with that because it's actually a fascinating insight, and I hope that you agree. Janet Moran is saying that Coda is saying hi to my new puppy Finn. What a wonderful name for your puppy. Hello to the new puppy Finn, and welcome to the burgeoning Mythical Ireland community. Hope you enjoy your interactions here, because as Desiree Riley is always telling us, when Coda barks, her dogs start barking, looking for where the bark is coming from, which is brilliant. So even the dogs interact on Mythical Ireland. Yes, some people say I've gone to the dogs, but anyway. Yes, indeed. Are we all settled and ready for tonight's reading? Oh, I'm thirsty. That's water, just for the record. That's Boyne water, treated, of course. I don't drink straight from the river. Reese is answering Coda, says Helen. Brilliant. All the dogs across the community, all over the world, they're all barking. Or if they're not barking, they're looking to see where's that barking coming from. I definitely heard barking. I told you before, Coda has an involuntary response to barking. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, he's asleep on the kitchen floor. A dog barks in a house 300 meters down the street, and Coda hears it, but he doesn't wake up. He just in his sleep, he just goes, "Whoa." It's very funny to watch. Okay, good. This is titled, this section of the chapter is titled Explanation of the Carmen Legend. And we were saying last week that Carmen had asked the Tuatha Dé Danann to hold her fair, her Enoch, at her burial place. and that fair and place should always bear her name. The full significance of this legend is not apparent until we recall that the 1st of August was a day sacred to Lu, the slayer of Balor, the master of all arts, the father of Cuchulainn, and possibly, as we saw in the first volume, the oldest lord of the happy otherworld. In addition to the triennial festival at Carmen, or Carman, should I say, an annual festival was held at Tailteann in County Meath, the institution of which was definitely ascribed to Lu. Hang on, I just get a place marker for my book in case I need to mark the place. The story is thus told in the Dinshenachas of Tailteann. Quote, Tailteann, daughter of Maimor, was the wife of Yochu, or Yochi, the Rough. Yochu the Rough. Was it stubble, or, was he not very mannerly, or what? Leave it to the imagination. Tailteann, daughter of Maimor, was the wife of Yochu the Rough, son of Dua the Dark. 'Tis by him the fortress of the hostages was built in Tara, and she was the foster mother of Lu, the son of the dumb champion. By him, daughter of Maimor, and wife of Yochu. So when they say it was by him that the mound of the hostages was built, the fortress of the hostages, are they referring to Maimor, her father, or Yochu, her husband? I think it's her husband. And of course, anyone bearing the name, it's spelt a variety of ways. Yochi, Yochu, Ehu, etc., was undoubtedly a king, because nearly all the kings had that appellation. Dronf says, hello everyone. Hello Dronf. Hope you are well. Michael Pike suggests he was barking mad, i.e. rough. Yochu the Rough was a dog. Maybe Coda has some gift of prognostication or seeing into the future. 'Tis she that asked her husband to clear away for her the wood of Coan, so that there might be an assembly around her grave. And this is an interesting thing, again, that we were mentioning last week, about the fact that the assembly sites are often associated with relics or grave sites. So, for instance, we have mention of the three principal relics in Ireland, Brunabonia, which we're familiar with, Newgrange Nouth and Douth, etc. Tailteann, which would be the cemetery of Lough Crew, and Rathcroghan. But almost in the same breath, the same myth, I did Na-E, which is the violent death of Na-E, says that those three were also the principal Enoch sites. And after she died on the calends of August, and her lamentation and funeral games were held by Louis, hence we say Lunasa. And it's interesting because an awful lot of those assemblies, as documented, by the way, I know I've mentioned this before, but if you haven't got this in your collection, and it is a slightly expensive book, it is worth its weight in gold. And that is squeaky chair wheels. I still need to oil those. And that is the Festival of Lunasa by Moira MacNeil, which is an almost exhaustive study into the Lunasa assembly sites of Ireland, running to almost 700 pages. A fabulous, fabulous work. And to be honest, you really, if you're even remotely interested in Irish mythology and customs and folklore and history, you really can't be without that one. So an awful lot of the assembly sites have this association with that time of year, which in the ancient calendar would have marked the beginning of the harvest, and which also coincides with the cross quarter date, which falls between the summer solstice, halfway in days, between the summer solstice and the autumn equinox. Keating, in his account of the festival, remarks that the games resembled those called Olympic in Greece, a remark far truer than he knew. For just as the Olympic Games were at the outset the festival. Oh, there's text missing on the margin of this now. I'm not. I hope this is only an issue on one page. It's an issue on 2 pages that I can see. I may have to fill in the gaps here for a moment. Just as the Olympic Games were at the outset, the festival of one special Greek tribe to which circumstances gave a something Hellenic character. Is it partly? So we may judge that each Gaelic tribe celebrated its own Lunasa, and that the same historical circumstances which made Tara a political, made the neighbouring Tailteann a religious centre, and gave to its Lunasa a character of preeminence which it retained for over 1,000 years at least. The natural tendency would be to associate the god's name solely with his chief festival and to drop it in the mention of other festivals. But we are justified in taking all the celebrations into consideration if we wish to form a clear idea of the nature of the festival. Pardon me for a moment while I silence my phone, which I should have done earlier. It is making a lot of beeping noises in the background. Thank you for your patience. Hope everybody is in good form. Well, Demaxful says, I was just taking notes on the TDD, the Tuatha Dé Danann. Nope, that's not the one I was supposed to highlight. It's like you read my mind. Well, there you go. Yes, and don't forget, if you haven't seen them, to go and look at the previous 2 episodes in the series last week and the previous week, which are on the YouTube channel. Lexi says, on Amazon US, the Festival of Lunasa is unavailable. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's still in print. Let me just check for a moment who the publisher is, because you may be able to get it directly from the publisher. You will pay postage. Yeah, it's University College Dublin, and was reissued in 2008, having first been published in 1962 by Oxford University Press. So I think you should. I mean, I know there are copies for sale in the old bookshop on the Hill of Tara, for instance. I'm not sure where else you might get it. But I suppose. Oh, okay. Shane Broderick says it's exceptionally rare everywhere and out of print. Didn't realize that. I know certainly the last time I was in Michael Slavin's bookshop on the Hill of Tara, there was at least 1 copy there, and I believe it was new because it looked to be in new condition. John Main says it's not in Kenny's. Okay, all right, didn't know that. So I'm lucky to have a copy, is what you're saying. There you go. I'll treasure it. Honestly, I will. I cherish it. It's a fabulous piece of work. It happens too, and not infrequently, that the secondary and more neglected examples of a rite preserve its primitive traits better than the leading ones, to which a larger mass of extraneous matter becomes, in the course of time, attached. If then we take both legends as referring to the same festival, the one, Carmen, special to the Leinster tribes, the other, Tailteann, common to the whole Irish race, we cannot fail to note the predominantly agricultural character of the rite. Next page, it is connected with the discomfiture of evil powers hostile to vegetation. Upon its due performance depends the welfare and increase of the soil. That both accounts should start the festival from the death of a woman is suggestive in connection with Professor Rees's explanation that the term Lunasa as lose marriage, i.e., in his interpretation, the wedding of sun god and earth, from which the life-giving produce of the soil was to spring, which is fascinating. I'm thinking particularly in relation to Dagda and Bowen at Brunabonia, the marriage, as it were, not the marriage quite, but certainly the union of sun and earth. This sacred marriage is, as we know, a widespread feature of the agricultural ritual studied by Manhart and Mr. Fraser, as underlying the polytheistic mythology of Greeks and Germans. But just as the ritual often culminated in the sacrifice of the king priest, the symbol or incarnation of the animating spirit of vegetation, so too his consort suffered not infrequently a like fate. Such an interpretation of the legend, as is here suggested, cannot be regarded as assured, but it is at least plausible. We have met with Bress, the Fomorian king over the Tuatha Dé Danann, both in the annals and in the romantic tale. The Dinshanachus of Carnhui Net runs as follows: Bress, son of Elathan, died there. 'Tis he that in the reign of Necton Fairhand, king of Munster, demanded from every roof tree in Ireland 100 men's drink of the milk of a hornless dun cow, or of the milk of a cow of some other single colour. So Munster's kine were singled by him, singed, I apologise. I will read that again more carefully this time, Anthony. So Munster's kine were singed by him, Necton, in a fire of fern, and then they were smeared with a porridge of the ashes of flaxseed, so that they became dark brown. That was done by the advice of Lou MacEthlin, that is Lou Samaldonach, same character, same deity, and of the wizard Fingal. Wizard is, as I said already, a very unusual word. It's usually say druid, but anyway, we let him away with it. Son of Findavnas, and they also formed 300 cows of wood with dark brown pails in their forks in lieu of the udders. Fascinating. These pails were dipped in black bog stuff. Then Bress came to inspect the manner of these cattle, and so that they might be milked in his presence. All the bog stuff they had was squeezed out as if it was milk. The Irish were under a geis to come thither at the same time, and Bress was under a geis to drink what should be milked there. So 300 buckets full of red bog stuff are milked for him, and he drinks it all. Little wonder that he died in consequence. Yeah, always be careful about the sort of source of your milk. Make sure it's pasteurized. Or as Tom King says, past your eyes. Never mind. Have I missed any questions or comments? Let me have a look. A lot of people chatting away, which is brilliant. Yes, rare and expensive. Yeah, me boasting about having the Festival of Lunas and nobody can get their hands on one. Try the second-hand ABE books. You'll probably be able to find copies on there. This curious legend has all the appearance of being one of those explanations of ritual which are the source of so many myths. The statement that the men of Ireland were under a geis, or gasa, or taboo to assemble at a particular place and time seems to indicate a festival of a similar character to the Lunasa. And the remainder of the story is a description of the rites practiced, brackets, passing the cattle through fire as a substitute for actual sacrifice, question mark, close bracket, and an attempt to account for them. And of course, that's a big thing associated with Bealtaine, isn't it? The Bealtaine fire, the purification of cattle by driving them Idir na Gá Hinne, between the two fires, which also, by the way, means a predicament in Irish. If you say you're Idir na Gá Hinne Bealtaine, it means that you're in a bit of a predicament. At times, we catch in the Dinshanachus legends far-off echoes of a giant world, so mighty and so remote as to leave upon the mind the same thrill of uncanny wonder as is provoked by the mythical lists in I don't know how to pronounce it. Kilhuich and Olwen is. Do we have any of our Welsh friends here who can help? Kilhwch. I apologize. Turbras Strand. Whence was it named? Turbra Frymar, father of the Govan Sayer. Tom King, are you listening? 'Tis he that owned it. From that heritage, he used to hurl a cast of his axe from the hill of the axe in the face of the flood tides, so that he forbade the sea, and it would not come over the axe. And no one knows his genealogy unless he be one of the defectives who fled from Tara before the master of many arts, i.e. Lugh. And that is a what's it called? Turvey Strand. Turvey, isn't it? In North County Dublin, in Fingal. Is it Turvey or Turvey? It's I think it's anglicised as Turvey. I'm looking it up because I'm doubting myself. Turvey. The Turvey? Am I right? Is it Turvey? I'm doubting myself now. Yeah, Turvey. Donabate. Fingal. North County Dublin. Lexi says, I can't find it on ABE either, so there you go. Shane Broderick, do you know any sources for the purchase of a copy of the Festival of Lunasa? Or is it a case of it's just not available? In this legend, which tells the power of Govnew's father, we have not only a supreme manifestation of the Tuatha Dé Danann dominance over the forces of nature, we have also, as Mr. Whitley Stokes has pointed out, a close parallel, the only one in the Aryan story treasure, to a feat of Vishnu's told of in Aryan-speaking India at much the same time, probably as the Gaels first landed in Ireland. To return to the purely agricultural side of Tuatha Dé Danann power, this is how the plain of Liffey got its name. Liffey, daughter of Canon the Pict, wedded Geltfana, son of Drucht, out of the Elfmound, and when you see Elfmound, that is she of Bov on Femin, she or Femin. South of Tara they set up, and because the plain over which she came seemed beautiful to her, she asked that her name might be in it. Interesting. Q, Laura Gawala and Amergin being asked by Banba, Fola, and Eru to name the country after him. By the way, Mandy McCurl says it is on ABE, priced at £250. Now, I did say earlier it's worth its weight in gold. If you have the money, buy the book. Don't worry about price. Only think about value. So they set up south of Tara, and because the plain over which she came seemed beautiful to her, she asked that her name might be in it. And Geltfana dealt out no more liquor for the men of Erin until yon plain was called by his wife's name. If you want to guarantee to make something happen in Ireland, threaten to remove all liquor, all alcohol. Put a ban on alcohol until the job is done, and it'll be done fairly quickly. There you go. Also unavailable on the book depository. Just bought Island of the Setting Sun. Excellent. Victory. You will enjoy that, I'm sure. If we ever meet, I'll sign it for you. Nor is unless you bought it from the Mythical Ireland website, in which case you get a signed copy. So there you are. Nor is the semi-humorous element noticeable in the oldest romantic tales concerning the Tuatha Dé Danann absent from the Dinshamakas. We are told that Gaivla, son of Ethadon, son of Nuadu of the Silver Hand, stole a bundle of twigs which Oinge, the Dogda's daughter, had gathered to make a tub thereof. A tub. a tub of sticks, a tub of twigs. For the tub which the Dagda had made for her would not cease from dripping while the sea was in flood. Aha, coracle, I think they mean. But not a drop was let out during the ebb. He hurled a cast of that bundle, and a fair wood grew thereout. And that is from the Ren Dinshanachus, which we previously mentioned is available in Revue Celtique, volumes 15 and 16, I think. Mention has already been made in volume 1, page 211. If you haven't, I only have volume 2 of this. I must get the other volume. Of the legend known as the Conquest of the She, which tells how Aengus, son of the Dagda, won his F-word palace from the brew and of its marvels, which is in Irish. That tale is the Gawal in Shida. Great was the power of the Dagda over the sons of Meal, even after their conquest of Ireland, says this tale. Quote, for the Tuatha Dé Danann, his subjects, destroyed the corn and milk of the sons of Meal, so that the latter were forced to make a treaty of peace with the Dagda. Not until then, and thanks to his goodwill, were they able to harvest corn and drink the milk of their cows. Don't mess with the Dagda. And of course, the Dagda features on one of the 6 murals in the Drogheda Urban Art Trail project, and it was completed at the weekend. This is perhaps the most definite statement that can be recovered from Irish mythic literature concerning the agricultural essence and potency of the Tuatha Dé Danann. For this reason, I have reserved it until now. The evidence previously adduced would suffice, I maintain, even in the absence of this statement, to assign to the folk of the goddess Danu, pardon me, I do apologise, the role of protectors, fosterers, inspirers of vegetable and animal life. And when this role is found connected with the practice of ritual sacrifice, the conclusion as to the true nature of the Tuatha Dé Danann seems inevitable. Fascinating that there's a connection there between the Tuatha Dé Danann and agriculture. I've said it. I think I've worn my heart on my sleeve in this regard, but I have said repeatedly that I believe some of the mythology pertaining in particular to Brunibonia derives its origins from the time that the monuments were built. Many scholars would disagree with that statement, I was going to say, with that contention. Heroic Saga mentions of the Tuatha Dé Danann is the next section. Mark Gordon is in the house from Iowa. Good afternoon, Mark. Glad you could join us. Claire M says, I finally caught you live on part 3. Brilliant. You mean you watched the other 2 afterwards? I wonder, did you do what people regularly do when they're watching it afterwards? They say, like, hi from Cincinnati or hi from London, you know? They don't realize it's not live anymore. No, I'm only joking. Shane Broderick is sharing the Mary Jones website, which is a very good resource for translations of tales. That's maryjones.us. Thank you for that, Shane. Very helpful for anybody who may not have access to all of the books. I like to have the hard copy, as it were. But there you go. Just making sure I haven't missed anyone. But it may be said, only 1 or 2 phases of the complex personality of the Tuatha Dé have been considered. Other evidence concerning these beings has been neglected. Bear in mind that this was published at the end of the 19th century, I think, wasn't it? What did we say was the date of the publication? 1897, yes, indeed. Other evidence concerning these beings has been neglected. In this chapter, I have adduced texts which, on the whole, deal with the Tuatha Dé Danann mainly, if not solely, and as a distinct group of individuals. But the many stories quoted in earlier chapters, alike from the Dinshanachus and the Heroic Sagas, clearly show that this is not the only mode of their appearance in Irish mythic romance. Throughout the entire range of that romance, whether it tell of the Milesian kings who founded, it says Emania, but I presume that's Awan, as in Awan Macha, of the Ulster king Conchobar Macnessa, or Crohor Macnessa, and his knights, of Cormac, that is Cormac MacArt, or of Finn, that is Finn MacCool, and his band of warriors, the Tuatha Dé Danann appear as the friends, the protectors, the rivals, the opponents of the mortal heroes. In the case of the Battle of Fintry, which I think we covered in 2 or 3 episodes, the Fianna were aided in their defense of Ireland against the armies of the world, Dara Dun, and the king of the world and his armies, by the Tuatha Dé Danann. But I digress. I do apologize. I will stick to the text as much as possible. The storytellers seem ignorant of any limitation of time imposed upon these wizard champions. They remain eternally wise and courteous and amorous throughout the thousands of years strung together by the chroniclers. Yeah, and they're still here today. They're all over the walls of Drogheda right now, which is brilliant. Limitations of place, on the contrary, may be noted, especially in the later romances. The invisible kingdom of Éireann being parcelled out among the folk of the Sidhe as definitely as its outward form was shared among the races of Niall or Owen or Connell or of Brian. Brian being Brian Boru, who we had several episodes. Well, we were talking about the Vikings, but Brian was a major part of that. Oh, I really need a pint of Guinness right. No, I'm sorry, that's water. How does the consideration, anyone up for a pint? Don't forget, we're meeting on the Hill of Tara on Sunday, the 22nd of May at 2 p.m. The first person-to-person gathering of the Tuatha. Well, the first one. I was going to say since the pandemic began. That's quite obvious. How does the consideration of this aspect of the Tuatha Dé Danann affect the estimate of their nature we have based upon the more purely mythological texts? To rightly answer this question, we must keep steadily in view what each class of mythico-romantic literature really is, and what is the true import of its evidence. Comparison between Ireland and Greece has already proved fruitful and illuminating. Resort may again be had to this expedient, and it may prove of value not only as illustrating the unfamiliar Irish by the familiar Greek literature, but as throwing new light upon the latter. Thank you, Madison. Where shall I get a pint? Well, in fairness, I live very close to a very, very well-known establishment in Drogheda called the Thatch Pub. If you've ever been to Drogheda and you've had either a drink or a meal or both in the Thatch Pub, you haven't been too far away. Comparison. This next section is called Comparison of Greek and Irish Mythic Literature. Is everybody still awake? There will be a test at the end of this episode. 20 questions. I expect you to all get them all right. And no, you can't replay the episode because the episode won't have been saved yet. So you have to memorize it all or take feverish notes. We know Greek mythology on the literary side from several sources. We have the witness of the heroic poems, the most famous of which, the Homeric, have come down to us entire, whilst we have a considerable amount of information concerning the secondary and more imitative works. This, the epic tradition, may be dated from the 10th to 7th centuries BC. The interest is primarily heroic, only secondary mythological. From the 8th and 7th centuries, we have the systematized, crudely philosophical account of the mythology, which has come down to us under the name of Hesiod. Valerie Gallagher is bravely saying that she's wide awake. Well, you'll be first in line with the 20 answers. You'll be first finished the test, I'm sure. Whereas Demax Full is honest in saying that they're not listening. Ceart galore, Yes, indeed. To a somewhat later period belong the more romantic versions of mythological episodes known as the Homeric hymns. From the 7th to 5th centuries, we have a number of scattered references to the lyric poets, especially in Pindar at the close of this period. In the main, the lyrists follow the epic tradition, but seem also to have preserved traces of a number of local sagas which had not attained the honour of incorporation in the epic cycles. Dílicta Aaron, I can't take the test. I have a doctor's note why I was late. Yeah, this isn't ordinary school. Those excuses don't wash here. All right, knuckle down and pay attention. I'm going to get my big. I was going to say I'm going to get my big meter stick out. When I was a kid in school, teachers were still hitting inattentive and lazy kids or kids who didn't want to be there. I know I'm laughing. It really wasn't funny, but I'm trying to be. Yes, yes, I'm trying to introduce comedy into the whole thing. In the 5th century, I promise I will not hit anyone. I can't anyway. You're on the other side of the screen. In the 5th century, the dramatists furnish us with a great mass of new material, only in part derived from the epic tradition, whilst the historian and philosopher make the first essays of critical rationalism applied to the mythology. But not until the great creative impulse of Greek literary art is long spent, not until the critical antiquarian Alexandrine period, or Alexandrine period if you prefer, do we get systemized surveys of the whole or definite portions of the mythology. The 2nd century Apollodorus and Antonius Liberalis sounds like a funny name for me. Antonius Liberalis, the 1st century Parthenius, imitated by Ovid, have preserved much precious material. Meanwhile, the critical philosophical spirit had been busily at work, and the mythology had either been rationalized into pseudo-history. Hey, does that sound familiar, folks? As by Euhemeros, or refined away in a maze of metaphysical subtleties. But all this time, and for centuries longer, the practice of worship was kept up. The rites or ITES were duly performed, the personages of the ecclesiastical hierarchy recorded, and from the mass of inscriptions and other historical texts relating to what may be called religious archaeology, we derive valuable hints concerning the formal side of the mythology. I understand this bit has suddenly become just a little bit more difficult as it doesn't immediately relate to Irish mythology. I'll still be asking questions. I expect you to be 100% attentive. Do you hear me? Na páistí Golair. So conservative. I jest. I wouldn't be able to answer the questions myself. So conservative were the ministers of public worship that, in the 2nd century after Christ, Pausanias, traveling through the Greek world, describing the shrines devisu and transcribing, where not deterred by religious scruples, the temple legends transmitted to the modern world what is, in some respects, the most precious and authentic source of information concerning the myths of Hellas. At the present day, the investigator of Greek religion starts in the first place with what may be the very latest recorded testimony, inscriptions, etc., dating possibly from the Christian period, or the evidence of Pausanias concerning the actual facts of worship. The Alexandrine or Alexandrine, I don't know which one I prefer, Alexandrine compilers are often found to have an evidential value superior not only to the dramatic and lyric development of the epic tradition, but even to the very fount of that tradition, to Homer himself. The humoristic and philosophical interpretations are of value solely as witnesses to the existence of that which they endeavour to explain. It would be fascinating, and it is probably a tragedy, that somebody other than the monks of the scriptoria of the monasteries of the Middle Ages in Ireland had written the myths down. You know, that a source perhaps independent of the church, for instance, and perhaps an earlier, but alas, we can't say for definite what said monks did to alter the texts, if anything. I know they definitely did, but to what extent and how do we disentangle it? And that is the question. If we compare Greece and Ireland, we see at once that the inscriptional historic evidence by which in the former we can control and supplement the information derived from literature is in the latter wholly lacking. Moreover, whilst the almost entirety of Greek mythic literature is earlier than and absolutely unaffected by Christianity, the entirety of Irish mythic literature in its present form is later than Christianity and has been affected by Christian classic culture to some extent. To what extent is the question that can't really be answered. And that's my addition, that I wasn't reading that. In spite of these profound differences, comparison between the two literatures is not only possible, but fruitful. The earliest Irish heroic cycles correspond to the Greek epic tradition, but it is doubtful if any Irish epic tale occupies, in Irish literature, the same position the Iliad does in Greek. Rather, must the Irish tales be regarded as answering partly to the latest cyclic poets, partly to the archaicizing, imitative school represented in Greece by the 3rd century Apollonius Rhodius. The Irish Hesiod is the book of invasions, but unfortunately this is, of all portions of the Irish mythic record, the one which has been most deformed by the alien culture of Christianity. Wow. So there you go. There it is in plain English. Luckily, a small amount of the mythology, treated humoristically in the Book of Invasions, has come down to us in romantic form. This may be compared with those myths preserved by the Homeric hymns. Finally, to the compilatory descriptive section of Greek mythological literature, Apollodorus, Antoninus Liberalis, love that, Pausanias, correspond, though very imperfectly, the Irish compilations known as the Cor Anvan or Mythico-Heroic Biography and the Dinshanicus or Mythico-Heroic Topography. Just then, as the student of Greek myth turns to the actual details of the cult and to the literature which is most closely connected therewith, if he wishes to form a clear idea of the nature and origin of a divinity, using the poetic representation by the epic or dramatic singer as a secondary and controlling source of information, so the student of Irish myths must seek for precise evidence as to the nature of the Irish gods from the compilations rather than from the heroic sagas. The reason is evident. Just checking on the comments. Good. Nobody's misbehaving. Keeping an eye on you all. All forms of literature, the rudest as well as the most sophisticated, are subject to the same necessity, that of interesting the hearer or reader in the fortunes of the personages presented to him. True that. In heroic sagas, the gods can but appear as foils to or conveniences for the hero. They are not the leading characters, and it is essential that their powers or fortunes should not compete with those of the real heroes. Moreover, from the numberless incidents of the god's career known to the heroic singer, it is almost inevitable that certain ones alone should be chosen for the complex web of his narratives. Fighting and lovemaking are the staple of heroic saga, as of all romance. It is the warlike and amatory side of the pantheon which will be represented in it far more frequently and certainly than that which would find expression in the ritual legends. 'Tis then I would urge vain to seek in mentions of the Tuatha Dé, scattered through the Cuchulainn and other heroic sagas, aught else than, in the nature of things, we can find there reference to the warlike and amorous exploits of these beings, presented so as to be an effective foil to the fortunes of the mortal or semi mortal hero. It is much that we were able to recover from the heroic sagas the picture of beings preeminent in art magic, capable of assuming all shapes at will, lords of a land of ideal plenty in which every form of vivid, sensual, material enjoyment is present, masters of the mystery of life, by whom the perpetual flow and transformation of the animating essence, bracket, which in this world can only be maintained by bloody sacrifice and inevitable death, close bracket, is so ordered and governed that neither death nor decay assail them. It would be too much to look for those myths, dependent upon and symbolizing the ritual, which form the root of all the complex manifestations of the divine personality. As it is, now that analysis has led us to this point, the connection of the two conceptions we are investigating must seem natural and legitimate. The god from whose favour are sought fertility and increase, who is himself the incorporate symbol of life and growth manifest in perpetually recurring, ever varying, yet eternally similar forms, is also Lord of the land in which fertility and increase find their highest expression. There you go. Blood and smut, says Dílachta Aaron. Tom Byrne is asking if anybody is heading to the gathering of the Tuatha on the Hill of Tara on the 22nd of May from Limerick. It may be that Tom is interested in carpooling. Chungus Khan, you are late. And I've just been saying that there's going to be a test at the end of this lesson. There will be 20 questions. You will not be able to answer them. It's all right. You can watch the replay. You're very welcome, by the way. I love playing the old moody, grumpy professor. Development of the Tuatha Dé Danann mythology is the next section. How far are we from finishing, by the way? What time is it? Oh, it's past 9. 1, 2, 1. Well, sort of a bit of a page. 1, 2, 3, 4. Aha. 3 full pages and a half. Grant, we're not too far away from finishing. So there you are. The development of the mythical literature connected with the Tuatha Dé Danann may now be briefly sketched. Originally, if we may judge from analogy, it doubtless consisted wholly of chance forming part of the ritual, and of legends accounting for and interpreting ritual acts. Out of such materials there would gradually arise a mythology, an attempt, that is to say, to represent the phenomena of the natural and social world under the guise of a divine history. Removed 1 degree from its primitive function of being a simple assistant and exponent of the ritual acts upon which depends the material welfare of the race, the mass of mythic legend becomes complex and plastic. Its divine dramatis personae acquire a wider range of attributes, supplementary, as a rule, to the primitive conception, but often transcending and supplanting it. A body of narrative comes into being, plot and incidents and personages of which are readily adaptable to that idealized representation of racial history known as heroic saga. But when the gods enter the world of mortal heroes, they must bow to the conventions of heroic legend. They insensibly put off more and more of their primitive character and tend to approximate to the ideal standard of their mortal antagonists and interlocutors. Lots of fancy words here. In the case of the Tuatha Dé, two of their essential characteristics not only persist after their inclusion in the heroic sagas, but are developed and influence the development of the heroic epics, or heroic epos. As holders and givers of life, the Tuatha Dé are alike deathless and capable of manifestation under the most diverse forms. Hence, their wizard might hence too the attribute. That's weird. Sorry. Did I read that right? Hence, their wizard might hence too the attribute of deathlessness, so marked a feature of themselves and their land. As bestowers of fertility and increase, they are, by their nature, liberal and amorous. Thus is formed that picture of these beings found in the oldest heroic sagas, long antedating, in all likelihood, the rise of Christianity, almost unaffected by the advent of the new faith, and persisting in literature down to this very century. The fairy loves of Etain or of Cuchulainn, the hosts of Connla or Cormac, had sufficiently sloughed off their godhead to retain their place undisturbed in the heroic romance, which was loved with equal fervour by the half-pagan bard and the Christian saint. It went otherwise with the mythology properly so called. This could not but conflict with Christianity, and was only preserved under a form, the pseudo-historic, which masked its real nature, or, in the case of the Battle of Moytura, was associated with and subordinated to the pseudo-history. Okay, yeah. Coda's just giving me some feedback, yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm repeating the quiz 20 question things too much, and it's not funny anymore. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, Coda, for your wonderful input. It's very valuable. Good to be able to speak doggy language. To some extent, the process of turning the mythology into history may have reacted upon the heroic sagas, though most of them had assumed a settled shape long before. Some modification seems to have taken place with a view of bringing them into line with the analytic schemes devised by the antiquary class. The fact, too, that beings originally deathless were assigned to definite dates tended, in some cases, to emphasize that, quote, mortalizing, unquote, bracket, if I may coin the word, close bracket, you may, of the Tuatha Dé, which itself was a necessary consequence of their inclusion into these heroic cycles. In other words, the Christian monks were, to borrow a phrase, pissed off. I think the phrase that I used in that chapter that I wrote about, the church and state and politics intermingling with religion in medieval Ireland, was that their patience was taxed to the very limit in having to transcribe this literature, or this mythological content, because it disagreed so much with their own biblical worldview, that they had to transform the ever living, as it were. He says deathless here, the ever living quality, the eternal quality of the Dé Danann, and he had to make them mortal and to endure and suffer mortal deaths, and to have sort of genealogies like ordinary families do. And I think that's what he's saying here, but he's saying it in, as I said earlier, he's describing it in what I might call professorial language. Pre-11th century Irish literature has thus preserved the outlines of the mythic narratives which grew out of the old chants and ritual legends, but only more or less disguised as pseudo-history. In the case of certain texts, e.g., the Battle of Moytura, the disguise is slight and unessential. The body of the story is genuine mythology. I think, yes, if you're looking for a very recent translation of Cát Moytura, our good friend Morgan Daimler has produced one and published one, and it is very modestly priced at that. The disguise is slight and unessential. The body of the story is genuine mythology. It has also preserved in the narrative of the dealings between the Tuatha Dé and the heroes glimpses of these beings which are but little younger in age than the purely mythological conceptions. Both forms, mythic and heroic, had passed into literature long before the Viking invasion. Their substance persists in the post-Viking redactions, although the latter have certainly been affected in small details by the events of the 9th and 10th centuries. And of course, we can't really account for, in terms of in numerical terms, in terms of volume, we can't account for what might have been lost during the Viking era, except for we appreciate the fact that we did lose a huge amount because they pillaged and burned the monasteries. But as a whole, myth and heroic epos alike belong to the oldest and most genuine manifestations of Gaelic belief and romantic fancy. In post 11th century literature, as is but natural, the Tuatha Dé tend to break away more and more from their primitive mythological basis and to develop upon lines laid down in the heroic sagas. It is possible also that the lateness of the date at which the great southern heroic saga, that of Finn and his warrior band, came into the hands of the professional bardic class is responsible for the obliteration of certain mythic features of the Tuatha Dé in this cycle. On the other hand, it must not be forgotten that the wizard god clan plays a far more important part in the Fenian than in the older cycles. He has a footnote there. The reason for this is, I think, obvious. The northern cycle was fashioned by the bards at a time when the heroic tradition was still looked upon as history. It was sung before men who claimed descent from the heroes, hence the subordination of the immortal, the prominence of the mortal element. Be this as it may, the tendency in the mythic romance of the 13th to the 18th century is to accentuate the courtly, amorous, and magic side of these beings. No wonder there are so many tales that have the word tuchmark in them. The wooing, tuchmark etain, tuchmark imera, to give you two examples. And magical side of these beings, to leave in the shade their original agricultural character and to eliminate the Rabelaisian element. What I'm interested in is, and I can't remember, perhaps some of you who are watching can help with this query. Who was it? And I don't think it was Campbell. It may have been Campbell. I'm not sure if it was Campbell or Gimbutas or somebody like that. Who was it that said that an accentuation upon agricultural characteristics associated with deities suggests that this mythology belongs to a time when agriculture was being, shall we say, developed in a particular area, when it was in its nascent form, when it was, when it had only just been introduced. Because I take an interest in all of that because of my own contention that some of the Dé Danann mythology belongs to that period when the Neolithic monuments were built. I know scholars all over the place are slapping their heads going, he didn't just say that. I did just say that. Absolutely I did. It should be added that the true nature of the Tuatha Dé was never entirely lost sight of in Ireland. I have already quoted several passages clearly showing that Irish scribes and antiquaries recognized these beings as the gods of their ancestors and were led astray neither by the romantic nor by the pseudo-historic presentment of their forms in the literature of the time. Lexi thinks it was Maria. That's Maria Gabutas. Yeah, I'm not sure, and I'd love the source. I'd have to go back through the library and scan through much text, which I don't have time to do, seeing that I'm back to I'm just reminding my children that they could be heard on the broadcast. I'm back to renovatorial duties after we finish. More remarkable still is the fact, as vouchsafed for by an entry in the Book of Armagh, i.e. dating at the latest from the 10th century, that the mythical belongings of these beings were correctly described. The unknown writer styles them Dei Torreni. Sorry, I apologize. Terreni. Dei Terreni. Gods of the earth. Fascinating still. Fascinating even the more. So, in other words, an earlier source describes them as gods of the earth. I have hitherto refrained from making any use of the fairy belief of modern Ireland. It was necessary in the first place to form a clear idea concerning the nature and development of the ancient belief with which it is connected. Historical and mythological evidence has been adduced in support of the contention that the Tuatha Dé are in the main deities of agriculture and that their worship consisted in the main of ritual sacrifices. We are now in a position to examine the evidence of modern folklore to see if it also supports this contention. And that is the end of the chapter. And the next one starts with that examination. So that, as we have just reached the end of that section, is the conclusion of this tripartite. We'll call it a mini series based on the work of Alfred Nutt, looking at the Dé Dananns. A fascinating, interesting delve into the whole subject. I think a very good modern equivalent, which we've mentioned before. And if you're really interested in disentangling some of the Dé Danann mythology, is Mark Williams's wonderful I can't remember the name of it right now because my mind has gone totally blank. Is the Immortals, the Irish Immortals. Jeez, I can't remember it. Somebody will prompt me in a moment. Homework for you. What's that about, Helen? Homework for me. Yes, to do more. I think there's a section in Ireland's Immortals. That's what it's called. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Mavanwe. That refers to the two respecting nature and the land in terms of agriculture compared to the Fomorians who exploited everything. I think we could learn something about that whole dynamic today, couldn't we? Don't we, especially sort of, it's developing nations or developed nations, shall we say, don't we have a little bit of a Fomorian attitude to the earth? We could do with a little bit of Tuatha Dé Danann inspiration in that regard. Katie Brogan, my uneducated observation agrees with the agricultural beginnings. Yeah, I was always fascinated by the fact that Dagda was described as being in control of the weather and the harvest. And then we have this whole complex that I keep talking about, the late Neolithic complex at Brúnaboinne, which looks like it might be a massive Éanach site. And if it's an Éanach site and it's late Neolithic, and I know that, again, the scholars are slapping their heads saying, I don't believe he just suggested that. I did just suggest that. If it's an Éanach site, there's no evidence of a later Éanach site at Brúnaboinne, like there is at Teltown, which has been documented in the past millennium and in the millennium before that. One wonders about how it might tie in with the much later documented assembly sites, those that we've been talking about, we haven't been talking about, but those that are written about by the wonderful Moira MacNeil in the Festival of Lunasa. I think it's a story that we'll hear more about down the line in terms of, I think there are more disciplines helping us now. Archaeology for one, genetics for another, believe it or not. And you'd say, how's genetics helping us to unravel mythology? Well, the best example, of course, is NG10, the gentleman buried in Newgrange, whose parents were brother and sister. And the proliferation of themes of incest in the mythology of Brunabonia and other places, it has to be said. Let me see. Ola. Oh, you're live. Yes. Hello there, Ola. You're very welcome. And I hope that you're in good form. I'm just checking through the comments. Small Van Big World is asking, will I be reading about the mother of the Danann? Not particularly, because believe it or not, there isn't an awful lot to say about her. It's not mentioned that much in the manuscripts. But we will certainly, absolutely return to the Tuatha Dé Danann. We can't help it. I mean, they're there. They're it's very difficult to do a single episode without some mention of Tuatha Dé Danann somewhere along the line. I'm just checking the comments. Plus, don't forget, so something that I was saying, I had a very interesting synchronicity. If you have a few minutes, by all means, if you're finished and you want to head off, please do. But if you have a couple of minutes, bear with me. I want to tell you about a synchronicity that happened this evening. There's a gentleman who is from Drogheda, who I am good friends with on Facebook, and I've known him for a number of years. He left Drogheda almost 40 years ago to live abroad. He lives in the States. And I'm actually good friends with his sister, who is a regular viewer of these live streams. Anyway, I was up at the mural, which has just been started on Patrick Street in Drogheda. Interesting, Patrick Street. What would Patrick think of Dé Danann mythology being painted on his walls? And so I met the artist, Frizz, and I had a chat with her. And I think I said this earlier, but she mentioned Morgan Daimler. And I said me and Morgan were friends, and got some photos taken. Got in the car because my wife was with me, and we got in the car to come home. And almost when I was home, I got a phone call from a Florida number. And it turns out that the person ringing was this friend of mine who emigrated from Drogheda 3 or 4 decades ago, who I won't mention his name now because I didn't ask him whether I could mention it or not. So I'd rather not name him, but he might be happy to be named in future. So anyway, I saw this long number coming up with 001 in front of it, and it said Florida. I was like, who is ringing me from Florida? I don't know if I know anyone in Florida. And I answered and I said hello, and he said, it's such and such. I said, oh, how are you? He said, this is what he said. He said, I'm down at the mural, and I've just been speaking to Frizz, and I happened to ask her, do you know Anthony Murphy? And she said, yeah, he was here 2 minutes ago. So he rang me because we've never met. And the last time he was in Ireland, we were supposed to meet, but his schedule was just such that we didn't get the chance. I think both of us were busy. And so I just said, right, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn the car around and I'm going to go down and meet him. And I went down and met him, and he and I enjoyed an hour and a half of conversation mostly about mythology and archaeology and history, and a thoroughly enjoyable interaction. But that just really one of those things that happens me on a very, very regular basis. Synchronicities of varying scales, from what's the chances of that happening? Unlikely. What's the chances of that happening? Very unlikely. To a couple of things that have happened where you say, what's the chances of that happening? Okay, this is the chance of that happening. You you've just realized you've won the Euro Millions, right? You've won the lottery. You've won 100 million euros on the lottery, and you walk into your house to celebrate and wave the ticket around, and a jumbo jet crashes on your house. That is the remoteness of the chances of a couple of the things that have happened to me. But uh, I mean, it's just, I mean, Lucretus, this, who is ringing me from Florida? It turns out he was ringing me from his cell phone, which he had brought to Ireland, but he was still dialing from, obviously, a Florida number. So I thought this was somebody ringing me from Florida. It turns out it was a friend ringing me from the mural where I had only been a few minutes previously. And the amazing thing is that, like, there was perhaps no need for my name to enter the conversation, except for it did. And Frizz said, Anthony Murphy, he was just here 2 minutes ago. Oh, I tell you, it's amazing. Anyway, I thought I'd share that with you. Some interesting things happening around the Murals project, and that's just one of them. It's just incredible stuff. I always say that when synchronicity happens, it's usually an indication that you're on the right path and keep going. And it's usually a positive affirmation from whatever mysterious sources are at work in the universe. There is no rational explanation for some of the amazing things that have happened. Anyway, there you go. That is the story for now. I will take suggestions if you want to comment below the video on Facebook or YouTube when it's published. I will take suggestions for more episodes. It is kind of getting to the stage where it's becoming more difficult to find material because I'm reading a lot rather than just talking about. I have written, there are several articles on Patreon. The Mythical Ireland patrons over the past 6 or 9 months have enjoyed a fair amount of material that hasn't been published anywhere. And I may use some of the earlier material from that as the basis for future episodes. Basically, if you're a patron, you get access to stuff that either other people aren't going to see or aren't going to see for a long time. So I would encourage you to definitely consider becoming a patron at that address there, which is patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. Anyway, I look forward to sharing the work of Frizz, who is working on the Morrigan. Also, the Dagda mural has been complete, and the Amergin mural have been complete. I've only shown you partially complete images so far. Really looking forward to sharing those. Pardon me, if the weather is good tomorrow, I will nip down at lunchtime and fly my little drone and get some pictures of the 3 murals that are, well, 2 recently completed and 1 in progress. Maybe a Dagda, just him, how he came to be. Good suggestion, Lexi. And the Dagda is a personal favorite of mine. Yes, there's a huge amount of material there. I think I did an episode based on, did I do an episode based on that chapter that I had written for Laura O'Brien's book? Well, Laura and her friend, what's it called? Club Cauldron. It's there on my shelf. Harp Club and Cauldron. Yeah, that's about the Dagda. An entire book about the Dagda. I'm not sure if I did. If I didn't, I'd be very glad to. Anya Ryan says, it has a suggestion. You mentioned Yochies at the beginning of the live, that they were invariably kings. Do you know if there's a reason for that? There's a long line of Yochies. I actually don't immediately offhand know the reason for it, but that's perhaps another avenue of exploration. Alwyn would like to know more about the Cage of Fields. I would like to get, what is that archaeologist's name? Seamus. Is it Seamus? I'm reluctant to say a name in case I get it wrong. I would like to get into conversation with the archaeologist who did a lot of the work there. Is it Seamus Caulfield? Is it? Am I right? Or quick Google search. Cage Fields, Seamus Caulfield, and Google decides to autofill my. Yeah, Seamus Caulfield. He's the one. So I'd like to get him into conversation. Yes. Kathy's saying something on the mythology of Donegal. Very interesting, because there's a whole different version of Caught My Chura in Donegal. The poison glen is attributed to the poison that came out of Balor's eye. Sean Fitzgerald might give me permission to read from um, the Lou book that he that he did the art for, um, which has the Donegal version of that tale, and also there's significant mythology, of course, associated with Tory Island and Balor, etc. You know, um, and more on the Fur Volug, says Adrian. Yeah, some interesting suggestions there. Definitely some material that I could, I need to go off and retrieve from the library. Anybody, a lot of people are saying they're heading off, and thanks for a great evening. Well, thank you all very much for your wonderful company. Really and truly, look, that's what this is all about. It is wonderful. Yvette wants the next chapter, and certainly, yeah. Look, especially with the older stuff, that's the copyright. There won't be copyright issues with. I'm very happy to continue reading. Absolutely no problem. I think that's another plan as well. But anyway, thank you for your lovely company this evening. Hope you all have a great week. And don't forget, if you're on YouTube, to subscribe to the channel. And look, if you're interested in the material, by all means, on Facebook, like and share with your friends. Encourage them to pop over. And we're here live every Monday evening at the same time. Well, mostly at the same time. Sometimes we do change it, but almost every time it's Monday 8 p.m. Irish time, which is 3 p.m. in New York and 12 noon in San Francisco. And we're here every Monday, and occasionally on extra days as well. Don't forget to consider becoming a patron, because you will genuinely get more there than you will get on the social media channels. In the meantime, it's been my great pleasure. As always, I've got to do more work for the renovation, which is almost there, thankfully. Almost. And a nice bottle of Pinot Grigio will be consumed at the end of it between us. So thank you, and we'll see you next week. In the meantime, Ichoa, well, it's morning in some places and afternoon in others. A good night. This is certainly a good night from us in the Boyne Valley, where the twilight is lingering, but it is getting dark. Ichoa, Kulosov, Slongafol, and most importantly, Tog Gabuge. Take it easy. See you all. Bye bye.